This right here needs to get roasted. For anyone who doesn't
Thank you. Yep.
know, a video came out somewhat recently from someone who claims to be a former employee of MrBeast. And that video contains about 53 minutes of content. Too long, didn't watch, that's totally fine. Because I did my own summary breakdown, which I'll link down below in the description, with legal examples and a full description about the more meaningful claims. Again, linked down below. But since all that happened, another member of the MrBeast team has come out with a statement. And that statement is absolute, irrefutable garbage that fails to address literally any of the important issues whatsoever, in yet another example of how to irreversibly screw up your own public reputation, speedrun edition. Just to clarify, this is yet again not a video about Ava Chris Tyson. That's a whole separate problem. There's a lot of really intense issues coming out with regards to all that, and
who gives a fuck? Like, Ava Chris Tyson's a fucking freak, talking to kids, obsessed about lollies, fucking weirdo, like, should probably be in some sort of institution away from society before somebody else gets hurt. Okay? We're done. True, fucking straitjacket padded room, move on. That doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with MrBeast, though. MrBeast might not have known about this. Who the fuck knows? Right now, I think it is inconclusive. Everyone here agrees with the take? Yeah, but like, what I'm saying is, like, this is why I haven't made a million fucking videos about this.
Inappropriate behavior and Discord servers and private messages and Jimmy's involved and the list goes on. But for me, the concept of running illegal lotteries, falsifying game show results, and breaking the law is a lot more immediately interesting when it comes to the world's largest YouTuber, who is renowned across the planet for his incredible generosity, despite the fact that every single bit of it appears to be for personal gain, nothing more. Anyway.
I think that a lot of generosity and philanthropy, there are a lot of people that do conspicuous philanthropy. I don't think that conspicuous philanthropy is a problem, but I do think that it's a problem when it's done as a way to cover up an image or as a way to make something bad seem not as bad. I think that donating money and doing things that are charitable for good PR is okay, but it becomes bad whenever it's being done as a way to hide for bad PR. That's the way I see it. It's my opinion.
A video came out from a former employee who claimed essentially three separate things. First, the game show videos are manipulated, directly impacting the integrity of the competition.
Yes.
Second, physical products, namely Feastables chocolate bars, are more akin to lottery tickets than actual merchandise, directly targeting children, which is a pretty severe ethical quagmire. And third, during his t-shirt signing live stream events, the team is frequently offering illegal lotteries, which are either not paid out properly or otherwise violate a bevy of rules and regulations regarding sweepstakes law. In essence, the methods by which MrBeast has risen to...
Which is, by the way, I know that I don't really want to criticize, MrBeast for the candy thing, but I do want to say that if I could make it a rule that kids can't buy things that have a random chance in them, I would do that. Straight up. I would do that categorically. I would do that for booster packs for cards. I would do that for microtransactions and loot boxes in video games. I would do that for getting special toys inside of, cereal boxes. I would do that for everything across the board. I think it's bad. And what I think it does is it normalizes gambling. And by the time the kid is an adult, there is already a foundation that's built that normalizes that type of behavior. While I'm not willing to condemn MrBeast explicitly, I do think that the practice is problematic. And I think the practice completely is bad. And things would be better if it didn't exist. That makes sense. Yes. But I don't have any unique anger towards MrBeast for this.
Fame and fortune is intrinsically predatory as it leverages child psychology for maximum profit. Pretty intense allegations, if you ask me. Adding this in postscript because I just noticed there was 5 hours of one of these live streams where they were doing all this stuff that was still up on Facebook. And now, after all of the news of this broke, they went and took that down too.
That's stupid. They shouldn't have done that. That's like when Doc deleted the post where he said that he was talking to a minor. That's so stupid.
They are running around trying to pull every single clip
Yeah.
of footage of the stuff that they did, including this one on Facebook. Yeah, that probably says something, don't you think? Well, in my own video, I discussed a couple of those same examples, like rigging a competition between boys and girls by directly removing one of the more skilled players on the boys' team in order to skew the results blatantly on camera. But before going back to some of the more hard-hitting infractions here, I want to read and discuss a statement made by Chucky, who appears to be a high-level MrBeast team member.
It's Chuck E. Cheese.
Who's taken it upon himself to debunk these allegations with one of the worst responses you can possibly imagine. Normally, I just read bullet points or summarize, but for this one,
Which makes sense, because this post reads like it was written by a rat. Like, I'm being real. Like, this is such bullshit, man. Absolutely. I mean, these are legal evidence, right? Yeah, but they're not being investigated. Now, there is actually something that if you destroy evidence before you are aware that you're being investigated, but you do it preemptively, that is still illegal. But it's different.
I'm going to go point by point, one by one. Quote, I quickly want to debunk some of the info in this video since the guy who made it was on my team. It was my decision to fire him for erratic behavior. He worked at the company for less than a month and wasn't an employee for most of the videos he mentions to have knowledge on. There's so much in this video, and I want to specifically address him saying our videos are fake or staged because this is not true, and I was on set for many of those videos. End quote. Okay, all right, cool, man. Let's hear it. Quote, you won't get in a video unless you're family or friends with someone that works at Beast. This is a wild statement that can easily be proven wrong. There's probably hundreds or thousands of people who have no affiliation to friends/family of Beast employees. Think the 456 people in Squid Game or ages 1 through 100, etc. Jimmy doesn't more than like a dozen people, LOL, end quote. Response? Sure. In the grand scheme of his YouTube channel, MrBeast can certainly point to a multitude of examples where people that aren't directly on or affiliated with the production team were part of videos.
Of course. And also, the implication with what was said was that Jimmy invited them personally, which was never what the accusation was. So it was shifted from people were involved with this that were in the company to people who were involved with this know Jimmy personally. You see how that happens?
There were other creators. There's verified instances where a few random fans were chosen for things or won very large sums of money. But here's an example of what that looks like.
All right. Two of us.
Whoa, two?
You sure you don't want the cheaper one? I'm just messing. You got $1 million.
Yeah, he's rich, damn.
You have $1 million.
I don't believe this is real.
It is.
Man, this is crazy.
This is only a small percentage of what you have.
I don't even know how I'm going to spend it all. This is
What's the problem
unreal.
with this?
They gave this man
Wait, let me watch this again.
what that looks like.
All right.
Creators, there's verified instances where a few random fans were chosen for things or won very large sums of money. But here's an example of what that looks like.
All right.
Oh, yeah, so he's using this as an example of it actually happening. Yeah, no, that's
Man,
true.
this is crazy.
Because it seems like
only
this
a
happened.
small percentage of what you have.
I don't even know how I'm going to spend it all. This is unreal.
Yeah.
They gave this man 24 hours to spend $1 million. He did, while they crack jokes about how rich he is and all this other stuff. But a few years later, he came out and said this.
He did help me financially, but like giving me money for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. That's why I'm trying to word it differently. But he did give me funds, but I just wish instead of like just, because it's okay to get funds, but to help me invest and to help me be able to be stable on my own without his money, you know? So that's probably one thing I would do differently too. That was the best example.
That's not on MrBeast. Like, I'm sorry, but like, we're gonna complain about a lot of shit, but this isn't on. Like, this is crazy, bro. Like, he gave you a ton of money. Like, what are we talking about?
Can give you is when
Yeah.
we had planned out the house and stuff. I literally had an hour. He had somebody come to my house and we sat down and we planned all this in an hour. Yeah, they came to my house and we planned this out in about an hour. So I wish I would have had more time, and I wish I would have did a couple things differently on the
Also, here's another point of this. I think there's a good chance that this video is clipped in a way that makes it seem like this guy is accusing MrBeast of doing something that's problematic, where he's probably just actually posting a retrospective of what I wish I had done differently in that time period. So it's being cut in a way to make it look like MrBeast is probably the bad guy. But in fact, this guy is just providing a retrospective of what happened and what he was thinking. So I could see this actually be a completely false narrative that's created by intentional editing. It's my opinion.
Management side, which I guess I really couldn't help because I had to spend it. I had to spend the money and I had to like do all this. So
Yeah, there's this thing called sudden wealth syndrome. It's a psychological phenomenon where people who don't typically have a lot of money suddenly acquire a very large amount of it and then proceed to make impulsive, irrational, or self-detrimental decisions, leaving them as bad or worse off than they were before at the end of it all. A lot of people probably know of this because when someone wins the Powerball or the lottery or whatever it is, they oftentimes end up back to being broke within a short span of time.
I also want to say another reason for that. This is going to sound like an asshole thing to say. It's why I'm going to say it. Is that the most of the people that play the lottery are fucking retards. And so it makes sense that if you take a pool out of retards and you give a retard a bunch of money, that they're going to figure out a way to lose the money because that's what people like that do. That's why they're playing the lottery in the first place, because if they were smart, they wouldn't have been playing the lottery. I understand there's some smart people that play the lottery and people play it for entertainment purposes, but I think that you also have a larger percentage of people that are stupid and bad with money. And so big surprise that inside of a pool of people that are selected purely based on their stupidity with money, that they would in fact be stupid with money.
Because they're making really strange decisions because of sudden wealth syndrome. MrBeast gives out all this money, but he intentionally condensed the timeline for this winner to a point where he had zero hope of rational decision making. For the sake of pushing YouTube content, he completely destroyed any chance that this man had of having a truly responsible outcome, which would involve hiring a financial planner, setting up a retirement fund, investing in diversified assets, etc., all of which takes time. He intentionally disallowed that from happening. For the sake of making a video...
I don't really see this as being a problem. I don't really see this as being an issue that much. I mean, it's like any sort of other, like, remember, like, we used to have that show back in the day. How many of you guys grew up with it where, like, you would go through a shopping mart and you would put everything in the cart and you could keep it for free? Yeah, like, this is one of these things where it's like, I feel like if it wasn't for this controversy, this would be one of the things that the people that are mad at him for building wells in Kenya would be latching onto. You gave them $1 million, but you didn't give them enough time to spend it. You gave somebody gold bars, but they were too heavy. Like, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of energy to get mad about this.
More exciting and more clickable for the Zoomer kids hoping to get rich someday off of him. He funneled this winner into a pathway of completely irresponsible decision-making. And I think we need to acknowledge that when we're discussing the random people who go on these game shows trying to win it big. Anyway, reading on. Next claim, quote, the train track was CGI, the bus wheels are CGI, the pit is fake. He acts like he's exposing us for using CGI to make backgrounds look cool when we have done multiple public behind-the-scenes videos with So Crispy showing this. It's clearly not a secret. On top of that, we did drive buses in that pit, and same with the train that you claim we didn't, end quote. That part, in my opinion, is totally fine. I didn't raise that point in my own coverage because I think it's incredibly weak. Editing things so that the bus wheels look like they're spinning.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, this is, again, it's like you're disproving something that's not relevant.
Is relatively harmless and doesn't strike me as a point that needed to be emphasized at all. Fair response, but not even one of the more important details. Reading on, the raccoon was a paid actor. I don't even know what to say about this. Clearly not an actor, lol, end quote. That was a joke? The guy was making a joke?
Yeah, obviously.
Responding to the joke as if it's serious is the hallmark of someone who actually can't respond to any substance. I'm sensing a pattern here.
True.
Bad look. Quote, island cost more than $1. Not true. We did pay $1 for this island. You can Google MrBeast purchases Outer Banks Island for $1, which stated this before the video was released. End quote. Yes, fact check, true. The island was sold for $1, with $27 in other taxes and fees afterwards, but that same island is now being leased back to the original owners. Not sure what to make of it, but fine. Island got sold for $1 as a gimmick. He's doing all right so far. Not the worst response ever, but he's not responding to anything of substance at all. Quote, he moved into a mansion 2 months before being in...
The reason for that happening is probably something that I don't have enough accounting knowledge or tax knowledge to understand, but somebody out there does.
Video, $1 million
Yeah.
mansion. He talks about how 2 months before we filmed the first Mac video that he moved into a mansion, Mac was staying at a friend's house, and I'm not sure how that proves anything or why it's relevant, end quote. That's not even a response. That's worthless. But also the initial claim is somewhat irrelevant as well, because this whole who works on the team and when storyline just...
My best argument for why I think it could have happened, and this is me putting pieces together that I might not fully understand, is that oftentimes people will give away almost houses in certain places. Like there are like super, super cheap houses that you can buy, and they're basically selling them or giving them away for you to basically be a conservator of it. Like, you just take care of this and we'll give it to you. Lighthouses are like that, for example. And Italy does this, yes. And so I could see one of these islands actually being a large-scale version of that. That then the MrBeast team was able to convince the ownership of the island that doing this purchase would drive more attention to the island that could potentially attract a person who would be willing to take over the conservatorship. That's my best guess of why it happened. But I could be totally fucking wrong with this.
doesn't matter. It's not hard hitting. Moving on. Quote, this wink was added in post. Bruh, he really did wink. This is a flat out lie again. End quote. Maybe. I don't know. Not a good look if the wink is real and it's one of the things he's claiming was added in post. If that's just a factual discrepancy there. Again, not good, but none of this matters.
Thank you. Yes, who gives a fuck?
He is picking around the edges.
Yes.
He's not even pretending to address a single thing that matters. Down below, here he goes again, hyperfixating on stuff that means absolutely nothing. I'm actually going to skip this because it's a waste of mine and everyone else's time.
Yeah, who cares?
But then finally, Chucky says something that matters about something that matters and completely blows up his own response. Quote, not only were the results of this video completely scripted, but the contestants are not random subscribers. He claims our 100 boys versus 100 girls video is scripted, and the proof is a random text saying it is. That's it. It was not scripted. Jimmy probably had countless people on set for that video, and it would have been impossible to hide. This video was not scripted. I was on set for this, and there was no bias for who won. He also implies the video is fake because we have some employees on each team. The employees in the video were there to fill in for people who tested positive for COVID last minute right before filming. Thea, Jimmy's girlfriend, mentioned this on a podcast over a year ago. If it wasn't for COVID, they would have not been in it. They had the same dollars on the line as everyone else. Some random text of someone thinking it was rigged doesn't mean it's rigged, LOL, end quote. There it is, right there. Okay. He completely destroys his own response, and let's showcase precisely why.
Thank you, yes.
There is no bias for who won. Wrong. Chucky, you are wrong. This is a lie. During that challenge, there was a twist where whichever team could solve 100 Rubik's Cubes first would be fine, but the loser would have their circle that they had to stay inside cut in half, directly influencing their ability to win the challenge overall. You can quibble about how much that change impacted their ability to win overall, a little bit or a lot, but it did impact them.
And you can also conclude this logically, that people might want to avoid, and this is like 2 years ago, whenever like PC stuff was way more popular, that they were trying to avoid having a situation where like the boys team just completely had a blowout over the girls team. I could easily see what happened. Yeah, easily.
Rubik's Cube event, let's call it, MrBeast identified publicly that there was just one boy and one girl able to solve the cubes. He makes a whole big deal out of it, actually. But then, again, right in the video, he says, we're going to make things interesting and offer the one guy.
Well, here's the thing, is that I think that the bias did not change the outcome, but the bias changed the degree of the outcome.
In there, who knows how to solve them, $10,000 to leave the video, which he does. The boy leaves, the team is then quite obviously unable to continue competing in that event with any real chance.
Okay, so basically, I guess people are confused. So same thing? No, it's not. So basically, causing a person to win. So MrBeast, I think it's this is true, right? That the closer a competition is, generally the more entertaining it is to watch, naturally, right? We can get this, right? Joseph's talking. No. Listen to what I'm saying. So logically, it would be in their best interest to make the match contestants close. So what I'm saying is that I think that it was done and it was changed, or there was a bias that was being made in order to keep the scores closer together. But I do not think that that bias carried over into changing the outcome of the tournament. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like this makes perfect fucking sense.
Completing it, and MrBeast goes across to the girls' team and says, quote, "I paid the one guy who knew how to solve them to leave. Now, if you don't win, that was all for nothing.
Yeah.
So win for me." That's called bias, Chucky, you fucking moron. Also, wonderfully enough, it's a violation of 47 USC 509, which states it shall be unlawful by means of persuasion, bribery, intimidation, or otherwise to induce or cause any contestant in a purportedly bona fide contest of intellectual knowledge or intellectual skill to refrain in any manner from using or displaying his knowledge or skill in such contest, whereby the outcome thereof will be in whole or in part prearranged or predetermined, end quote. And the girls did win the overall challenge. Meaning that the only real question is whether or not the world's largest YouTube channel, with hundreds of millions of followers and views, is governed by broadcasting laws, or if they are somehow immune to the governing regulations of game shows, traditional game shows, despite having a larger audience and higher prize money than any other similar program. To be fair, that
they are probably not accountable to it. Like, there's a lot of broadcasting laws that exist only for, like, public television, and they don't exist, like, in general. There should be. I think it depends on what it is. Like, I don't agree in all cases, but I do agree in some cases. I think that putting, like, doing game shows like this, I think it's kind of scammy to do, because I bet this is what happened, right? Is that MrBeast probably had everybody sign a waiver that said that basically it's not a game show and it's just for entertainment purposes. And that basically makes it to where, like, he's not accountable for that, right? He's not going to get in trouble for that reason. That's what I think probably happens. Why do we care? I think some people care because they just think it's kind of scammy, right? And I think also the issue is that things that are being presented as being real but aren't real, people take offense to it because it's something that makes people think that the other people think they're stupid. Right? It's like insulting their intelligence. I think that's the reason why. Just don't watch the show if you don't like it. Yeah, no, I understand, but I do think that, like, if you're going to say that you're doing a game show, like, I don't know, I feel like this is very complicated.
question can actually be debated heavily. But what can't be debated is the fact that MrBeast directly influenced the challenge and the winning team in a biased way openly.
Yeah, I think it's scummy for sure. It's 100% scummy. Absolutely.
In part, affected the results.
Like, regardless
Point
of whether
blank,
it's legal or not.
Period, Chucky. The rest of the response is more useless garbage. He doesn't even make a passing attempt at refuting anything of substance. And the entire thing boils down to a simplified claim that the other guy is lying. MrBeast hasn't done anything wrong. But from where I sit, this is a pretty stunning example of someone doing things wrong that are predatory and unethical, as the metaphorical levee breaks and the world kind of wakes up to the fact of who they are and what they do. Actually, the final outro is worth reading, and it goes like this, quote, "Jimmy spends unfathomable amounts of money and time to ensure the integrity of what he does, and I hate to see it come into question with a bunch of lies. Dawson, if you leave this up, then you're a hypocrite," end quote. But from where I sit, it is painfully clear that MrBeast's competitions have zero integrity. He openly manipulates the results in a multitude of ways. There's many, many more examples.
Well, it makes sense that they would manipulate the results. Yeah, I feel like these guys are completely overreacting. Contestants sign waivers and they know what they're signing up for. It's all for entertainment. As I said, I think that it's scummy and it is on the spectrum of being bad, but it's on like a 1 or a 2. I don't think these are the real problems. Like, the game shows being rigged, I really don't care a lot about that. right? It's not that big of a deal to me. It's not like I'm going to go out and like talk about this for fucking, you know, hours and hours and hours about how bad it is to rig a game show. It's entertainment. It's whatever. I know some people care about it, and it's not like you're wrong to care about it. It's just that I'm not wrong to not care about it either. I think that there are other things that are much more problematic.
I told some of them in the prior video, which again is linked down below. But yeah, there's a bunch of examples. This debunking response is completely worthless. And the real substance of the initial video itself has nothing to do with just editing the videos. The real substance is selling merchandise on a live stream while you tell everyone.
Yeah, this is the actual problem. Like rigging the game shows, I'm sorry guys, I could give less of a fuck. This is the problem here.
Who buys a shirt in the next 5 minutes will get thousands of dollars in the package, which causes people to spam buy your t-shirts, which you profit from. And then when the 5 minutes are over, you say, wait, don't we owe someone money? Okay, someone who buys in the next 30 seconds will get the money in their order, thus invalidating the purchase of anyone who bought the shirt during those first 5 minutes to have a shot at winning prize money because you changed the rules. That is, in no uncertain terms, illegal, okay? And it's further emphasized by the deletion of those live streams because they know.
Yeah, because people are buying it under a false pretense. Lamau, that's not a scam. Well, if you say, okay, so here's the logic, right? If you say that if you buy this, you have a 10% chance of getting something, and you don't have a 10% chance of getting it, then you're scamming. It's actually that simple. Because people are spending money on something that they're not getting. If you're spending money on something and you don't get the thing that you spent the money on, then you got scammed. This really isn't that complicated. I don't know why, and I think this is an issue because people view scam as, oh, this item is overpriced, it's a scam. No, it's just overpriced. A scam is when you buy, there are two ways a scam can happen. A scam can happen when you don't have control over being able to make a purchase or not. Like, for example, insulin. You have to buy insulin to live, or like other types of medical things. And so because of that, the prices get raised massively and you get scammed. That's one type of a scam. So a forced purchase. The second type of a scam is a purchase that's made that you don't know what you're buying. Or you are buying it under the pretense of one thing, but you're actually getting something else. And the reason why the scam occurs here is the lack of consent. Is that you consented for one degree of terms, and you got another degree of terms. You got scammed. Very, 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 so fucking simple. It's so simple.
It's illegal. And they didn't want to face consequences for their predatory behavior and gimmicky, horrible tactics. The MrBeast team is falling apart. Ava Chris Tyson is now a full-blown multiviral scandal that just keeps on getting worse. The predatory reality of how they organize competitions and merchandise was not.
No, I think people are just fucking pissed off at MrBeast for high-roading about the trans thing. And now finally that like it's come back around that, you know, Chris was actually a bad dude, a bad girl, whatever the fuck. Guess what? People are like, see, like, fuck you, and now we're gonna push it even harder. Yep.
It was made exponentially worse by another employee
Chris
now
CD,
saying
really?
There is no bias, and Jimmy spends unfathomable amounts of money to ensure the integrity of what he does. But again, the atmosphere I see is one where a channel that pretty much always exploited people, hiding under an extremely thin and very disingenuous veneer of, but we give it all away, we're so charitable, while they get filthy rich off of underage gambling and people's desperation in the background, is now losing public support. I think it's deserved, but time will tell.
It will not lose public support in the long term because desperation never goes out of style. People have been playing lotteries for all of history. Like, I mean, it's not like it's going to go away tomorrow. Yeah, it'll never end. Exactly. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Like, as long as you put out an opportunity for desperate people to make money, they will always figure out a way to justify why it's okay. It's an unfortunate truth, but I think that's the case. Hope is immortal. Yep. And so is delusion and desperation. And the worst part about it is all three of those fit together pretty well.
That's it. Not sure if I'll cover the Ava Chris Tyson stuff. It's got about as much public scrutiny as humanly possible right now anyway,
Yeah, I
so
don't
it's
really
not like
care.
I'd bring anything unique or new to the table, but this angle seems to be quite a bit less well known, so it felt worth it. If you want to support the channel, there's links down below, a special VPN deal, locals and Patreon, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, question everything, and have a nice night.
There it is. Yeah. If you want to be rich, sell hope. That's true. Absolutely. Casinos cashing in your social security checks for you. Yep, there it is. So, I don't think anything's going to happen, honestly. I don't think so either. Like, so this is like my black pill opinion, is that I think MrBeast has such a big audience that's global that a small contingency of the Western English audience being upset about this isn't enough to really damage the brand in a long-term way. And I think that after, like, probably they move past this, they'll probably just make a few videos. Like, I've always said that the best apology is better content. So as I said, MrBeast... He's going to have to kill somebody in the next video. He's got to up the ante. He's going to have to. Right? Now, I've got a lot of ideas for MrBeast. Okay? I've got a lot of ideas. We could go with something really simple, like we created the Roman Colosseum and we're doing a live stream and people are going to fight like gladiators, and then after one of them is subdued, your likes and dislikes on the video will cause the person to die or not. You could have MrBeast, you know, dress up like Caesar with like a, you know, the wreath around his head, and then, you know, like do the thumbs up or thumbs down based off of what the chat votes, right? That would be crazy. Okay, it gets better. What if we had MrBeast recreates Guantanamo Bay? And so you put a bunch of different streamers and random people in Guantanamo Bay, basically a recreation of that, and whoever can stay there the longest will be able to, will be able to win like $1 million or like $5 million or something like that. Oh, I can keep going. I can think of some really bad ones. What if you had 50 people with a terminal illness and you made them eat only Feastables, and the last one to die had $10 million given to their family? And then you take their bodies and you have them eaten by vegans for a separate video, and the person who can correctly identify which person lived the longest based off the amount of chocolate in their skin and in their meat would win another $10 million. Oh, okay. I got one. One more. You recreate the castle levels of Bowser in Super Mario Brothers, but with real lava. And you have people go through it, and you do it side-scroller. And you put it up, you do the entire thing 100 feet up. So they can't go around it or anything. They would have to jump down, and they would die from fall damage. And you could even play the sound whenever they would fall. And you recreate the Mario castles 1 for 1. Sin's Fortress. Yeah, recreate Sin's Fortress. Man. Oh, man. I think we should stop, right?